Please welcome Shazia Saleem.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the BBC for inviting me. It's such an honour to be here in front of you all and on this panel as well. I remember one of my earliest memories was when I was about 7 years old, and I was in the dinner queue at school, and I was basically holding everyone up because I was staring at the shepherd's pie for so long. And I couldn't have it, and I was having this debate in my head about, you know, mum and dad aren't around, and maybe I could sneak a piece, to the point that the dinner lady, I remember this, she had to actually put down her ladle, physically walk around the counter and actually push me down further so I could get the vegetarian cheese and tomato pizza. I've got to say, food envy has got me into so much trouble when I was growing up, but I'm so grateful that it's got me here today, and it's got me to found the company that I'm the founder of, ieat Foods. I often get asked quite a lot about what's it like to be a female in business, what's it like to be a Muslim in business, what's it like to be an Asian in business, what's it like to be a hijabi in business, and whether that's supported in the community and what the reaction has been. And really, I always go back to my role model. Growing up in the UK, you tend to have a lot of role models, so people that you look up to, singers, actresses. I think Jet from The Gladiators was there once. But the one that kind of really stuck with me throughout my childhood and my teens and my 20s was a lady called Khadija, may God give her peace. And she was a lady who lived in 6th century Arabia, so you can imagine what that's like for a woman, right? She was actually an incredibly talented and successful businesswoman. So she was, in today's terms, would have been a multi-billionairess, like absolutely huge. But she died completely penniless, like not a single coin to her name, because she used all of her wealth to support orphans, to support the homeless, to support people who wanted to get married but couldn't afford to, and her local community. She was actually the wife of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and was 15 years older than him, was a widow, a single mother, and his boss, right? And so an incredible woman. And one of the things I find really fascinating about her is what was said about her mannerisms. So what was written about her, there's very little that's written about her, but what was written about her was that she apparently had a style and a behaviour that let the men know that she was doing business with, that she was there about business, right? There wasn't anything else going on. It was very professional. And she was apparently something in her tone and the way that she sort of conducted herself around them. And I find that really fascinating because growing up, I couldn't figure out why women in business, the women that I saw who were successful, either were quite sexualized or quite masculine. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why that was. And I figured that maybe you had to go down either of those two paths in order to be successful. And I've got to say, thank God Karen Brady exists, because she was the first woman that I ever saw who wasn't down either of those two paths. She was a great businesswoman. She was very feminine, but she was very strong. And I really loved that. I really loved that she kind of opened my eyes and made me realize that you can be feminine, you can be strong, and people will judge you on your content, not just your physical exterior. And it's a message that I carry, actually. I mentor quite a few kids, and I speak to them a lot about this. And the message that I carry is that being a woman in business is great. You know, long gone are the days of the 80s and 90s where it was this sort of mass-produce industry, right? Today, it's all about spotting niches, spotting gaps, really understanding what consumers want and tailoring your product towards that. And women have a brilliant ability to use their intellectual assets to be able to figure that out and to really kind of understand something that's been missing for the last 2 decades. I mean, ieat exists because we were able to understand that Muslim consumers didn't eat curry 3 times a day, right? We wanted to eat other foods, and we cared about the ethical supply chain. We cared about convenience. We cared about making sure that our food was from kitchen cupboard ingredients. Just because you're short on time doesn't mean that you're prepared to eat processed junk. And that came from a woman who's spent years really understanding and talking to consumers and working out what the niche is. And that's actually where the future of business is going today. And I'm really, really excited and honoured to be part of that. I'll tell you a really funny story before I close. And it happened about 1.5 years ago. And I was meeting some suppliers, and they'd been trying really hard to get my business over email. And so we'd set up this meeting. And my assistant had gone in and said, We'll start in a few minutes. Shaz is just praying. Now, here's the thing. Shaz, which is what my name is often shortened to, is a unisex name. And it can often be used for a guy, such as Shazad, Shazan, lots of guys. So over email, it turns out the guys who I was meeting had assumed that I was male. So I walk in a couple of minutes later, and the guys assume that I'm Shaz's wife, and approach me and say, oh, yeah, Shaz is just praying. Shaz is just praying. Would you be a dear and make us a cup of tea, please? His colleague didn't even look up from his iPad and said, yeah, milk, 2 sugars, please. And so I smiled. I went and made them their tea, because clearly they're dehydrated. And I made them their tea. And then I sat at the head of the table, to their horror, and actually conducted the meeting. Now, what I really love about that story is I know so many girls who think that all their role in life is to be the tea maker. And my parents are Sri Lankan. I can make you the best cup of tea you've ever had, but I will do it in my sleep. There's so many other things that the girls that I work with can go on to achieve. And what I really like to finish on is an ask that in whatever capacity that you are here today, and I'm sure you've all achieved amazing things, is to be the person that a younger girl looks up to and says, I can do so because she's done it. Thank you very much.